Hello, friends. Good to be back with you, and thank you so much for joining me today. My mind is wandering on the subject of bullying. And I wonder if you, like myself and millions of others, had your first experience of being bullied at school. Well, I'm not counting what the team said to me in high school when during my ball game I inadvertently shot the ball through our own team's goal posts. That wasn't bullying, what they said. I deserved every word of it. I didn't lose any friends, and they forgave me. At least I think they forgave me. But I do call it bullying when, in I think third grade, a couple of fifth graders, upperclassmen, told me very seriously that I ought to know that when I walked home past a certain big house, that quite often at that time of day when I walked home, they would open all the windows of the house and throw attack dogs out of the windows to get the passers-by. And of course, I believed them. I didn't stop to think, what would happen to a dog who was thrown out of a third-story window? He'd be in no condition to attack, because a bullied person doesn't usually stop to think. They just react because the bully has found out their vulnerable place. And in those days, I was still afraid of dogs. Yeah, so I would start running a block before I got to the house and keep running till I was a block beyond it. Bullying is a repeated attempt to exert power over others, to intimidate, to degrade, and or compel submission. Sometimes all of the above. Yeah, 90 years ago, there was no cyberbullying, which is so deadly dangerous now, leading to tragedies. We didn't have social media except the telephone. And most families 90 years ago only had one telephone in the whole house. So it wasn't a particularly efficient way to bully a classmate. Bullying back then, yeah, there was plenty of it. There was more school cliques, street gangs, poison pen, anonymous letters, nasty anonymous letters. There was even a business of, you may have heard of it, hate valentines that you would send to kids you didn't like on Valentine's Day. Now, as we grow older, we realized that it's not limited to youth, to children. Bullying can happen at any age, right up to old age sometimes. And it comes from family, spouses, workplace, church, clubs. And it isn't always apparent overtly. A good friend of mine, she herself being a family therapist, didn't realize until I pointed out to her after many talks we had together that she was being bullied both by her husband and her grown daughter over a matter of a legacy. She hadn't even recognized it. That can happen. Now, governments can and do bullying. And our own administration is not by any means the first to be a bullying government. President Andrew Jackson, 996 years ago in 1830, signed the Indian Removable Act. in which 60,000 American natives were moved from their ancient homes 1,200 miles to designated territories west of the Mississippi. And on the way, it took several months to work out, at least 5,000 American natives died in that progress, if you call that progress, died of starvation, disease, exposure. It was called the Trail of Tears. It was done to clear the land for white settlers. One of the most bullying things our nation has ever done. It is significant, isn't it, that Andrew Jackson is greatly admired by President Trump. If I'm remembering correctly, as a statue of him in his office. You could sum up our administration by the words world bully. On May 24, it was shown on his social media after his taped Bible reading for a MAGA-friendly prayer event, showed him a facsimile of him punching an atomic attack button, that red button. It showed spacecraft dropping missiles around the world. It showed massive explosions, and it showed mushroom clouds. Yes, what do we call a social media demonstration like that? Did you watch the cabinet meeting this past week in which Trump's aides, abettors, enablers outdo one another in praise? They are themselves bullied, cowed, prepared to bully you and me in his name, the master bully. And of course, some don't make it. In recent weeks, he's thrown out 4 members of his cabinet and advisory group. Nome of Homeland Security, Bondi, the Attorney General, Gabbard, the 8th Director of National Intelligence since last year, and Lori Chavez de Remer, who was Labor Secretary, all 4 women, interestingly enough. Certainly from our perspective, they seemed ruthless, very good at hiding the truth, shifting facts, but they weren't ruthless enough to suit him. Thinking of one of the bullies in training, not yet officially appointed, he's being watched, Todd Blanche. Yes, the acting Attorney General. How will he please the boss? He's begun pretty well, shall we say. He's the one who wants ICE observers at the election booths. He's the one who's trying to push through that 1.8 billion, they're calling it slush fund, of course, to repay people who feel they've been persecuted by the government, such as the rioters back in 2001. He's the one who is being honed to go after Trump's enemies, political enemies. Will he fill the bill? You know, sometimes I think I could write a survival rule book for Trump's enablers and abettors. And these would be the three major rules if you want to stay in his favor. First of all, never, ever, ever outshine the leader. Preeminent in every way. This is the mistake Noon and Elon Musk made. They tried, maybe didn't realize what they were doing. They were outshining Trump. They were dominating. They were being picturesque and spectacular. That won't do. The second rule would be quietly, efficiently, and totally ruthless in carrying out orders. But don't carry it to the extreme of too much overt cruelty, or you will gather the wrong kind of attention that might reflect on your boss. The third rule would be let your praise of the leader and your own bright ideas always, always be attributed to something the leader has said or done, that you get your inspiration from him and him alone. To keep in mind, this is a solar system. There is one sun with the gravity and the brightness, spectacular flame of the sun. And you, the abettors, the enablers, the cabinet members, are the planets fixed in your orbits, going around the sun. You know, bullying is based on the bully's deep-seated fear and deep-seated self-doubt. They don't even realize how deep and hungry it is. But if you look in a bully's eyes, if you can bear to, you will see deep down the flickering fear there. Rage, maybe, but the flickers of fear are there. It's a center of starvation. There's never enough to make them feel strong, in control, fulfilled. And propitiation do not work. Submission and propitiation just make the bully hunger for more. One way to manage the bully. It is the word no. No. I will no longer give you power over me. I will stand. Every great religion in the world has told us how to stand in the presence of evil. First, stand up. Be there visually, verbally, facing the bully, the evil. Name the evil. Claim the strength to say no. Stand for. Know and name the vision and the light and the purpose that gives us strength to stand. I've often spoken of the great Statue of Liberty. I'm thinking of another statue now, and undoubtedly you've seen pictures of it, maybe even seen the original. It's called the Nike, the Winged Victory, which was carved out of marble by the Greeks well over 2,000 years ago, dug out of the soil in 1863. She's lost her head and her arms during the centuries, but there is power and strength in every line of her vigorous body. She, on the pedestal, she's over 18 feet high. She's shown standing on the prow of a ship, facing the wind and the waves and the storm. Her wings are uprisen, the clothes blowing behind her. She is the statue of victory, goddess of victory. And during World War II, raids at our school, and in those days, 90 years, 80, 85 years ago, for all 4 years of the war, we had air raid drills periodically, like fire drills, but except in being marched outside, we were marched in groups to the first floor of the school and sitting in groups of our classes. And near the part of the hall where our class sat was a replica of the great Nike, the symbol of victory. And I used to sit there during those dread days of war, not knowing if we would be bombed the way millions were overseas, and look at that statue with the strength and the power and the vigor and the feeling of, even while standing still, you are moving forward. Up, to stand against, for. Let's all help each other to stand again. Thank you so much for joining me today. See you next week.